Hello everyone. Welcome to the official podcast by SOA English Cafe in association with SOA Photography Club on sustainability and innovation in healthcare 2026 in collaboration with CAHO. Today we'll be gaining some important insights from industry experts, researchers and professors to understand the ground reality of how healthcare is being transformed through sustainable practices, collaborative research and technological innovation. My name is Aditya Biswabandhu, and I welcome Dr. Anil Jauri, who is the ex-CEO of the National Accreditation Board for certification bodies, NAPCB. Thank you for having us, sir. So, has your experience been in this conference so far?
Thank you. Thanks for having me here. Well, it was quite nice to interact and listen to various experts. I always preface my presentations by saying I'm neither a sustainability expert nor a healthcare expert. So I look forward to listening to them. But I bring some general knowledge to the same sector to add to the knowledge that other people have.
Sure, sir. Shall we start with the first question?
Yeah, sure, please.
From your long experience in building trust through certification systems, what is the most important principle institutions should follow if they truly want to create a sustainable future, as they call it?
See, as far as I am concerned, I come from a field of standard certification accreditation, and I would say the choice of standard. You should choose a good standard to adopt. Standards are voluntary, and you have options to adopt a number of standards. A good standard would lead to good outcomes. So that will be the first one, I would say. And second one would be how the standards, the compliance to the standard is demonstrated. That's also equally important, if not more important. Because we have examples globally where we meet international standards, but if we do not demonstrate compliance in internationally acceptable ways, that compliance to international standard is not accepted globally. So both are important as far as I am concerned. So choose a good standard, choose a good body to certify or accredit you, whatever you call it, because healthcare has both options.
The compliance that you talked about in any any system, how do you think that comes into play when it is in case of healthcare?
So in case of healthcare, as I said, there are two models available to you. Commonly, I mean, it's common today. More popular probably is the healthcare accreditation model, where you have healthcare accreditation standard. You implement that standard, the accreditation body comes in and evaluates you and awards you accreditation certificate. But there is another model of ISO framework. Whole lot of ISO standards are there which can be utilized by healthcare establishments. Once upon a time, we were using ISO 9001 too in hospitals. Today, there is a specific standard for healthcare called ISO 7101. So you can implement ISO 7101, get certified by an accredited body. So it's slightly different model from the healthcare accreditation model. And when it comes to sustainability, there are a whole lot of standards like ISO 14001, which is on environment management systems, ISO 50001, which is on energy management systems, ISO 45001, which is on occupational health and safety management system. So you can implement any of these standards and demonstrate that you are at least adhering to parts of sustainability, if not sustainability as a whole. Sustainability as a whole has several parameters, as you know.
Yes, sir. That's actually very expansive answer, given that we are talking about sustainability and the fact that we have to, we are yet to meet these standards. So a question upon that, given that you talked about international standards and government standards as well, with sustainability commitments increasing across sectors, many institutions claim to follow green practices. From a certification perspective, how can accreditation frameworks ensure that these claims translate into measurable and accountable actions?
Yeah, that's one crucial aspect of sustainable practices or green practices, as you say. The fact that it's prone to misleading or false claims, and therefore it's very necessary that we are able to demonstrate those claims backed by evidence. In fact, we have a regulation in India on greenwashing under Consumer Protection Act. So if you are making misleading claims, you can be penalized under the law. that regulation also speaks about third-party certification or verification. Now, which is that third-party body which can be trusted? That's the big question in the market, because a whole lot of bodies can give you a certificate. Anybody can set up. There is no license required to be a third-party body. You don't need a license or an approval. So even I can start tomorrow my own company and start giving you certificate. Whether that's acceptable, that's trustworthy, should we rely on that? That's a big question. So that's where the ISO kind of accreditation comes into play, which accredits third-party bodies for their competence in a particular area. So my advice to always is that either look for a governmental agency to check compliance, or look for an accredited third-party body who can check compliance to generate trust and have solid evidence that you are following the practices.
That's a very good answer, sir. So to expand upon this answer as well, how can collaboration between regulators, accreditation bodies, and the industry help create a stronger culture of sustainability compliance?
See, regulation is something which is compulsory by law. Unfortunately, healthcare is under-regulated today. Because the regulation is state responsibility in healthcare, and therefore not every state has a robust regulation in place. The central government did enact Clinical Establishment Act in 2010 more as a model act. It has no power to enforce it. It can persuade state governments to adopt it. As I know, about 14 states have adopted that act. So that's where the regulation part is. There are minimum standards under clinical establishments still to be notified. So there's hardly any regulation of healthcare services. Accreditation, we know NABH accreditation has been very popular. There is also NQAS accreditation for public healthcare facilities. In future, what's going to happen is this. There will be regulators in place. They'll prescribe requirements which have to be compulsorily followed by law. There will be accreditation, as you say, or voluntary certification or accreditation, which will be always regulation plus. It will go beyond regulation, because there is no point certifying to regulation. Regulators are already there. So it will be regulation plus. It will be in a way movement towards excellence. Regulation will set minimum benchmarks that you must meet these benchmarks. Accreditation or certification will say, okay, move beyond this, go further, and there is no end to improvement. So globally, what would happen is, and it would happen in India, it's happening globally, that regulators will incentivize voluntary certification and accreditation. They will say that if you are holding XYZ certification or say NABH accreditation, then you represent less risk to me as compared to a hospital which is unaccredited. So I'll have more oversight over this hospital than you who are NABH accredited. So that's how regulators will incentivize voluntary certification or accreditation, and that's how they'll work together. The responsibility on voluntary certification or accreditation would be that as part of their accreditation or certification process, they also verify compliance to the regulations. So it should not happen that regulations are saying something, accreditation body is saying something else. I get accredited, I am showing a fancy certificate, but when a regulator walks in, he says, what is the hell? You are not complying with the law. That should not happen. So that's where the convergence would take place.
Yes, sir. Given the talk of like third parties and the involvement of government, do you think should government have a role in this as well? Given what you talked about, how the Indian government has not put stringent laws on the state governments as well. Should this be made more strict in terms of governance?
See, in Western countries, this separation is very clear and this fundamental is understood very well. Government's job is to regulate. Only government can regulate. Only government can have that power. Right. Private sector cannot regulate. So in West, the concept is, if it's regulation, government gets involved. If it's voluntary standards, market-driven, government stays out. It's left to the stakeholders. Let them decide what market wants and let them. So there are a whole lot of private standards on sustainability, especially. Whole lot of private standards. There's a website called standardsmap.org. If you go to the website, you will see a listing of more than 300 private standards of sustainability. Not always on healthcare. They are more on products, but still. Right. So it should happen to my mind, it should happen in India also, that government should spend its effort on regulation, because India needs regulation. India is short of regulation. I pointed out that healthcare is not very well regulated right now. There are states where path labs are not regulated at all. Even in product regulation, we discovered in 2017 that India was deficit in technical regulation. It's called technical regulation. So my view is that government should just focus on regulation where public health and safety is involved. That's the obligation of the government. It's not something which they are doing, for the business purposes or charity. It's an obligation which our governments have honestly failed to discharge. At times, they have not even understood that it's their obligation. But to my mind, government should just focus on regulation of healthcare, because there are a whole lot of aspects of healthcare which are unregulated, including pricing. I mean, you know that how private hospitals are seen to be overcharging people, and that's a battle going on right now in Supreme Court. That under clinical establishment, even range of rates should be prescribed. Let's see where it goes.
Thank you, sir, for such important and on-ground reality, like such important insights into the regulations and how accreditation and regulations are completely different things. How like sustainability in healthcare is such a new topic, considering like how it is a new topic in our country. Like we do not even have this, like don't have the standards yet, and we have a lot more work to do. So thank you for joining us today on this podcast. To see you in the next episodes.
Thank you. Thanks for having me here. It was a pleasure.